I keep hearing over and over the number of people who would say, please don't forget us when you leave. And I can't forget them. I can't. Faces, when I first came back, I would wake up with a start and I would just be dreaming of their faces, and I'd have to realize where I was, and I don't want to forget them. I want them to always stay in my heart.
Everlasting joy, I sing everlasting joy, I sing everlasting joy, oh, it's for you. I sing everlasting joy, oh yes, everlasting joy, I sing everlasting joy, oh, it's for you. I sing sorrow, oh yes, sorrow, I sing sorrow.
My name is Marty Harden. I'm an independent filmmaker. I was asked to go with a group to Zimbabwe to document the need for feeding programs for children that have been orphaned by AIDS. According to a November 2004 report from the United Nations, it's estimated that there are currently 14.7 million children who have been orphaned by AIDS in sub-Saharan Africa. By the year 2010, less than 5 years from now, that number is expected to skyrocket to 40 million orphans. Most people assume that those children who have been orphaned also have AIDS. The children who have AIDS typically die by the time that they're 5 years of age. The children that we're talking about are children that do not have AIDS that will continue to live on. These children who have no other hope are actually having to turn to theft, having to turn to prostitution in order to support their younger brothers and sisters. And while people tend to focus on prophylaxis, how can we stop the spread of AIDS, actually the focus should be shifted toward the survival of the children who have been orphaned by AIDS, because therein lies the future of sub-Saharan Africa.
This is Dandara School, and these are some of the children at Dandara School. Most of them on the front section here are orphans.
We have AIDS orphans, and there are so many. And the influx of AIDS is coming at such an alarming rate that we can't even control the number of infants. So at the moment, we can't even count them, because nearly every home has got an orphan.
And we also have got some situations whereby we can have the mother dying, then a relative comes in, tries to look after the kids, but that same relative might all pass away. Then they will have nowhere to go.
Because, people say a hungry man is an angry man. This kid doesn't play well with others because he's hungry, he's frustrated, doesn't interact well with others. So maybe that's when you find kids fighting sometimes.
And the report then argues that these drivers are basically related to development. Right. And we then take a closer look at this by dissecting the epidemic, looking at it, and you realize that an environment has been in existence that has made the spread of HIV as fulminant as it is. And that environment was created deliberately and non-deliberately by the colonial era policies, where the need then was to reorganize society to meet the needs at that time. Then after independence, the commendable efforts to redistribute wealth and so forth have generally not been realized, further deepening the insecurities, the inequalities, and the poverty. And this has led to people adopting survival strategies that put them at greater risk of HIV infection.
As we traveled, one of the truly tragic cases that we encountered was a young girl by the name of Smoline. In April of 2003, Smoline's mother and father both passed away due to AIDS, leaving her as a 15-year-old head of household. She had to drop out of school and had to assume all familial responsibilities in taking care of her younger brothers. As she showed us around their place where they lived, there were very few clothes and very little food. In fact, she confided there was only enough food to last until the end of the week. After that, there was none. There was nowhere to turn to. There was no one for support. She had to go it alone.
You can encounter such cases. They are not few, they are many. If you cross to the other part of the district in Buhera, you find a lot more. Some, for example, I get to a home where there are 15 of such a kind, 15 of them being catered by one old woman, one grandmother, nothing to eat, nothing no clothes to put on, no blankets, no shoes. So the magnitude of the problem is just frightening. It's phenomenal.
Every 14 seconds, a child becomes an orphan in sub-Saharan Africa. That means since the very first frame of this video to right now, 25 children have been orphaned. And by the time we get to the very last frame, there will be 30 new orphans in sub-Saharan Africa. It's an unbelievable problem. It's impossible to cover the entire scope of this problem in the span of 7 minutes. It doesn't allow you to meet these children one-on-one or face-to-face. As a filmmaker, I'm tasked with changing people's perceptions to make them stop and evaluate the world. Usually it's done within the context of a fictional piece, but this isn't fiction. This is the reality of a generation of children who have lost their ancestral predecessors in sub-Saharan Africa, and it's time to actually get up, do something, and make a difference today. Thanks.